Lawmakers support the probe in the killing of 17 soldiers. The Ways and Means investigation begins in the Senate, and President Tinubu's bills get accelerated attention in the National Assembly. You're watching the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adiri. The Nigerian Senate has recommended the adoption of improved technology and artificial intelligence to unravel the identity of criminals responsible for the gruesome killing of 17 soldiers in Okwama community of Delta State. This was part of the recommendations made when the Joint Senate Committee on Defense, Navy, Army and Air Force met behind closed doors with the service chiefs to discuss the circumstances surrounding the tragic killings and efforts to apprehend the killers.
We'll continue to support our armed forces, and I want to also assure Mr. President that he took the right step when he gave that direction and directive to our armed forces to fish out the perpetrators of this heinous and horrific crime by killing our officers and men in Kwama. And for us in the National Assembly, there is no investment that the administration can do better than investing in the armed forces and other security agencies for them to secure us.
We just have to continue to appeal for patience and understanding. We also decided that technology has become very important and that the armed forces must begin to utilize technology and artificial intelligence to track down the location of some of these gangsters. By and large, we encourage them that they are doing a human job, protecting the assets of the nation. Without doubt, Delta State is very important as far as the custodians of the assets of our nation is concerned. And whatever happens, we must make sure that only people who are guilty face the consequences.
In the Green Chamber of the National Assembly, lawmakers are shocked about the brazen attack on Nigeria's armed forces by yet-to-be-identified militants in the Niger Delta. The chairman, House of Reps Committee on Defense, Babajimi Benson, raised the motion of urgent public importance on the need to probe this particular incident and ensure those culpable do not escape unpunished.
Unless this act is checked and stopped, acts like this by the very people the Nigerian armed forces are meant to protect have the potential of demoralizing the military and affecting the war on insecurity and insurgency.
The ongoing investigation in the Ways and Means funding granted by the Central Bank of Nigeria to the federal government in the previous administration will continue to generate reactions as different issues continue to unravel. Now the Senate has directed the Apex Bank to recover the outstanding 358 billion naira out of the more than 1 trillion naira anchor borrowers loan given to commercial banks. But the lawmakers are also satisfied with the performance of the Apex Bank under the leadership of Olayemi Kadoso, as it has recorded a 70% loan recovery success rate.
They will have to help us to recover these monies. Because if we go the extra hog, we have the right to debit the accounts of those banks at source. We have the right. We should have that right. If we didn't have that right, we should invoke that right. That right is implicit, it's given, because the banks maintain accounts with us, with CBN. Okay, if any bank guarantees any loan, okay, and that bank and the customer does not pay, the credit risk lies on the bank. And if the commercial bank continues to be in default, okay, the next thing you to do is to use your hammer, maybe the account.
They have the residual knowledge and they have all the legacy information with respect to these issues. And then with their support and with their knowledge, and of course with the push from the Senate, we'll make sure that we give you all the information that we need. But the ultimate destination is to ensure that we don't lose any cover and we recover these monies.
The National Assembly has passed a bill that will increase the salaries of judicial office holders. Also, the Parliament expeditiously passed President Bola Tinubu's request for extension of the implementation of the capital components of the 2023 budget and the supplementary budget from March 31st to June 30th. This generated mixed reactions in both chambers of the National Assembly, but it was eventually passed.
All of us here, we agree that the privileges and the remunerations of judicial office holders cannot be overemphasized, and therefore plead passionately for my colleagues to allow this bill pass the second time.
These extensions are necessary to ensure that the provisions of the Act are exhaustively implemented.
I will take a short break. When I return, you will meet my guest, a senator from Ebonyi North Senatorial District. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. My guest is the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate. He represents Ebonyi North Senatorial District in the National Assembly, Senator Onyekachi Onwebonyi. It's good to have you on the Hallowed Chambers.
Thank you, my dear sister.
Thank you for joining us in our studio today. Let's begin with the security situation in the country. Of course, you know, it has become an alarming situation and even very worrisome for lawmakers in the Senate. We've seen, you know, several times, several motions come up on the floor of the Senate and, you know, senators expressing, you know, their displeasure with the current situation on ground. Can you express the concerns by lawmakers and, you know, what the solution, these resolutions, so that Nigerians can better understand?
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to commend the establishment for this opportunity, for me to air my view on some of these burning national issues, particularly as it relates to the security of the nation. It goes without saying that that is one of the major problems we're facing today in Nigeria. And as a parliament, being the Senate, we are seriously concerned with what is happening. In the North, almost on a daily basis, we are recording cases of kidnap. And in the East, of course, the IPOB is terrorizing the entire place. Recently, about 200 children were kidnapped in some states, in a part of the North. We are not happy about that. And that is why if you watch our activities so far, of summoned the service chiefs, you know, up to 3 consecutive times, you know, this year, that shows that the Senate is not asleep. We are the representative of the people. We feel their impulse, and that is why we're taking those steps. But I can assure you that our security agencies, particularly the police and the military, is doing their best. And I assure you, in no time, the insecurity that is ravaging our country will be completely eradicated.
A huge chunk of the country's budget is actually allocated to defense, and we've seen a lot of money being pumped into controlling insecurity in the country, but it still continues, and, you know, it's more like government has its hands tied behind its back. The security situation keeps deteriorating. Why do you think this is so?
Well, government hands is not tied behind the backs, but I must tell you, as Parliament, just like you pointed out, we've appropriated so much money to our security agencies to tackle this problem. And I must tell you, they are taking steps, you know, to procure most of the equipment required. But I must share with you, in the peripheral aspect of it, I won't give you details. Nigerians is part of the problem. Some people are sabotaging the effort of Mr. President in that regard. But I tell you, that is not a problem. We are bigger than that problem. And with the current measures being put in place, you know, which we've seen in our recent meeting with the security chiefs, I assure you that in less than a year now, Boko Haram in the North will be completely eradicated. Then IPOB activities in the East will also be put to stop.
Yeah, I was about to mention the fact that the Senate has met with security chiefs on several occasions, and, you know, this issue, we still keep hearing the same thing. Would you say that maybe the approach of the armed forces is not what the situation needs, because there is now a growing advocacy for the deployment of non-kinetic energy to solve this situation? Do you think this is the way to go? Yes,
and that is why I said here that the equipment we are procuring will put to an end to the problem. Okay. But it's not wise for me to go in details as to the measures be put in place, because doing so is giving an enemy an information. Just like I said earlier, that some people are sabotaging the effort of Mr. President. Because from what happened, the Boko Haram are using those kidnapped children as their shield because of the hint they've gotten based on the equipment we are procuring to tackle them. You can see the sabotage, but that is not all. The Nigerian army have promised Nigerians through their information officer that they are working around the clock to rescue those children unharmed. And I assure you it will happen, and it will happen very soon.
Do you also think, do you also buy the idea of exploring foreign help? Because a lot of Nigerians say if these situations cannot be managed by ourselves, we should seek foreign help. Do you also buy into that idea?
We cannot rule out foreign helps, but I must tell you that our security agencies are competent and capable of handling this problem. You will agree with me that in 2014, when Boko Haram actually came on board boldly, you can't compare what was happening then to what is happening today. They have been completely dislodged. What we are seeing today is pocket of attacks in areas they feel is a soft target. But there are no area, there is no part of Nigeria that the Boko Harams, are holding hostage like they did earlier. Remember, in Borno State, some local government areas in Borno State were under their control. The same thing in Kebbi, the same thing in other northeast parts of the country. But today, you hardly see such, meaning that the security agencies are doing their best and the result is visible.
Yesterday, the Senate, through the ad hoc committee or through the joint committee of the Senate, met with security chiefs over the attack on the troops that were attacked in Delta State. Can you bring us up to speed with maybe the resolution of that committee, if you're aware of it?
Well, the resolution of that committee, though I'm not a member of that committee, is that thorough investigation should be done so as to ascertain the actors behind that dastard act. And the military, of course, have given us a hint that this crime was actually committed by some youths from those communities. And I want to tell you they will not go scot-free.
But sort of like a slip from the president of the Senate when he said that he doesn't feel that people that committed this crime was from that region.
Mr. President never said so. Most times people, out of mischief, will misquote Mr. President for their selfish political reasons. I was in chambers when Mr. President made that statement. He said that investigation should be done to ascertain the actual people that committed the crime. He never said what people are quoting. I saw in the social media where people are quoting him to have said that the people who committed the crime are mercenaries. Mr. President never said so.
Well, let's move forward, where the federal government has also put out names of terrorism financiers and those alleged to be aiding and abetting, these acts of terrorism. Is this enough deterrent? Do you think this is enough to put an end to?
It's a good development.
Okay.
It's a good development, and that goes to show that our security agencies are actually working around the clock. I believe that when these names are exposed, when they are exposed of what they are doing, definitely it will stop. It is a good measure. Okay. And I urge federal government to maintain their stand. Such people should be exposed, their names should be made available, and they should be accordingly prosecuted to deter others.
The Senate also advised the federal government and also the armed forces to employ the use of more use of technology and also artificial intelligence in fighting, terrorism and acts of crime like this. But what would you say? Because also cybercrime is an issue. A lot of people can sabotage the web. A lot of people can sabotage this artificial intelligence. Do you think this is going to be an effective step?
It's going to be an effective step.
Okay.
Because Nigeria is not the only country that is being challenged with insecurity. So we are learning from what others did to surmount theirs. And that measure is one of the most reliable measures to fight insecurity.
All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll still continue the conversation. Don't go anywhere. We still have more for you on the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Glad to have you back. If you are just joining us, we have been speaking with the Deputy Whip of the Senate, Senator Onyekachi Nwebonyi. Thank you for staying with us on the program.
Thank you, my sister.
So we understand that the Senate is currently considering the ways and means advances given by the CBN to the federal government, probing that allegation. And also the other committee has made some findings so far. Can you bring us up to speed with those findings and how far-reaching are they?
Well, let me start by saying that the 10th Senate, like I've always said, is a corrective Senate. We are out to correct all the anomalies that led us to this economic quagmire we are facing today. The issue of ways and means came up last month in the Senate, and the Senate, in a committee of whole, constituted a committee, to investigate that. I am not a member, but I remember vividly that about 27 trillion was actually approved, just like you said. But the Senate put up a caveat in giving that approval that the details regarding where these monies are going should be made available to the Senate. I must tell you, my dear sister, and to Nigerians, those details are yet to be provided, meaning that the approval of the National Assembly was a conditional approval. And that is to say that up to now, we still expect the past administration to tell us where these monies, have gone. Because if these monies were spent in actually solving our problems, we're supposed to feel the impact.
But doesn't that also indict the National Assembly, who has the primary function of oversight on the executive?
This probing of the ways and means is part of our work. That is why we are calling for it. It's not you that called for it. It's the Parliament, showing that our eyes is on the ball. We gave the approval, conditional approval, that the details should be made available before spending the money. But the executive then went ahead to spend the money without giving details to the Parliament. And that is why the 10th Senate is asking questions on this. And we expect answers from the past administration. Because I must tell you, the problem we have in Nigeria is corruption. Nobody can deny that. As a parliamentarian, I cannot deny that. But how do we come out of it? And this is one of the ways to come out of it. If the investigation proved that the monies were not spent for the benefit of Nigerians, they will refund the money to the last kobo. They will refund the money to the last kobo because we need it to fund the budget.
Okay. Let's move on now. Speaking of the budget, there's so much talk about this budget padding alleged by Senator Ningi, and Senator Ningi also failed to prove his claim when he was put to speak and defend his allegations. He was suspended for that and also given the opportunity to tender a written apology to the Senate. Sure. I want to ask if that the Senate has received that apology letter. Well,
let me start with submitting, so that Nigerians will know that there is no form of budget padding as far as 2024 budgetary provisions is concerned. What played out is an act of mischief on the side of my friend and my colleague, Senator Ningi, which is not far from what happened after the election of His Excellency Senator Akpabio as the President of the Senate.
A lot of Nigerians have been hearing this so-called friction between Senator Akpabio and some members on the opposition of the Senate. Can you make Nigerians understand what is actually going on?
What is going on is that some group of people that Akpabio defeated, of course he contested with somebody. Okay. We had two groups before the session of this 10th Senate. Of course, one must emerge a winner, one must be a loser. And instead of adopting this spirit of sportsmanship by accepting defeat and joining hands for us to build Nigeria, they are still bent on fighting Mr. President, forgetting that the Senate doesn't belong to one man. Senator Akpabio is just the presiding officer. We have 109 senators. And what is our duty? Our duty is to make good laws and formulate good policies for better governance of Nigeria, so that Nigerians will be happy, so that we'll come out of this economic quagmire. But some people, instead of adopting that spirit, is still playing party politics. And I'm not surprised with the position of Ningi, because he's an extremist. is an extremist. And it is unfortunate that an experienced lawmaker like him can be used.
Also, you're suggesting that Senator Ningi is not acting on his own accord.
He's playing somebody's script, the script of the opposition.
Is there some sort of secrecy associated with the budget that may have raised these allegations?
There is no secrecy. Mr. President laid 28 trillion to us as his budget for 2024. We consider it. Senator Ningi is a member of that committee. I am a member of that committee. We consider the budgetary provisions line by line, and we okayed it. Now, let me tell you something. Supposing we start considering that there was budget padding, the proper party to complain is the man that sent the budget. The budget emanated from the office of Mr. President through the Ministry of Budget and National Planning down to the National Assembly. And the National Assembly will have two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. And we all participated in examining this budget. Questions were asked, MDAs and ministers came and defended their budget, and we passed it accordingly.
Is there something that we are not being informed about when it comes to this matter? Because initially, when you ask some senators about, the leadership style of President Godswill Akpabio, Senator Godswill Akpabio, they say it's okay, it's fine, but we still see some friction. What are we not
Let me tell you something. His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio is one of the best human beings I've met in my life. Very easygoing, very calm, very loving. There is no iota of high-handedness in him. And that is one of the special qualities that he possesses.
But won't you, some people might say because you are also a member of the leadership.
It's not so. It's not so.
Manner.
If you watch what transpired in the floor of the Senate that day, most of the opposition parties disassociated themselves from what Ningi was saying. Remember when he was called upon to prove his point, he abandoned the issue to attack the strong man. Instead of speaking to the allegation, he started asking that he doesn't know how many A's the Senate President has. He doesn't know the salary, the take-home of the Senate President. Was that part of his allegation? His allegation was that the budget was padded to the tune of 3 trillion. But when he was called upon to defend his allegation, because by law, he who asserts owns the burden of proof. And he was given almost 20 minutes to do that. But like I said, he abandoned the fact in issue to attack the straw man, which is the Senate President, being his target. Now, like I said earlier, National Assembly is made up of two chambers. He didn't say anything about the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He didn't say anything about the Minister of Budget. That raises another question. Why Akpabio? Is Akpabio the author of the budget? Is it Akpabio alone that passed the budget? That tells you that he's after one man, Godswill Akpabio, who is an innocent man. He is an innocent man, a true Nigerian who loves everybody.
We also saw the outburst by the Senate leader where he says this could just be an agenda.
The Senate leader said it all, and I adopt that submission here.
All right.
But it's unfortunate that a leader, an experienced lawmaker like Ningi, can bring himself down to ethnic and religious, nonsense. I call it nonsense because it's baseless. Although some of discrimination is taking us nowhere, we should come together as Nigerians and develop Nigeria. Nigeria first, before your religion, before your zone, before your ethnicity. Nigeria first. Let's put behind our religion. Let's put behind where we come from. Let's look at what the leaders are doing, not where they come from. And I believe that with time, we shall get there.
Before I let you go, you recently embarked on an outreach in your constituency where you gave seedlings to, farmers to start up, their vocation in farming.
Yes.
How far-reaching is that? And do you think this will actually go a long way in solving the food security situation the country currently finds itself in?
Well, thank you so much. It goes without saying that agriculture is the next option for Nigeria if we actually want to revive our economy. Most times people pour blames on Mr. President and governors, forgetting that as citizens we have a role to play. Nigeria is blessed with fertile land and human resources. And agriculture before now was our major source of revenue. But due to act of laziness, we abandoned that. And that is why, as a lawmaker, I deemed it fit to provide those inputs to the farmers. And you remember, I'm giving this input in the month of March. What is my target? What is the motive? Because when we give farmers input on time, they will have time to plan, and that will guarantee better yield. So that is the rationale and motive behind that. And I've targeted 4,000 farmers. And I assure you, if others, like I know other lawmakers are doing, if we should focus on agriculture, I assure you that this food crisis by next year will be a thing of the past. And I want to use this medium to urge Nigerian youths, particularly those seeking for white-collar job. While you are waiting for white-collar job, do something with your hands. I want to quote my boss, the former governor of Ebonyi State, His Excellency David Nwezu Umahi. When I was his party chairman, he called me one day in his office. I said, young man, you're a party chairman at your early 30s. Don't stay inside your office. Go into farming so that you can help yourself and help your people.
What do you think about the border reopening? President Tinubu just recently issued a directive, for those some confiscated goods to be released to their owners to be redistributed to the market. Do you think this would some way interfere, with the efforts to, produce what we eat?
Well, you agree with me that some measures are taken to, address the immediate challenge. And I believe that this decision of Mr. President is one of those based on doctrine of necessity. You can see that there is food scarcity in the nation. And you can't continue to close your door when you are hungry. You must open the door so that you can feed and go to farm. Then thereafter, when you have enough to feed yourself, you can close your door. So is it rational for you to close your door when you have nothing to eat? So I commend Mr. President for taking that bold step.
That is our program this week. I hope we have been able to keep you informed on the activities of the National Assembly and how it concerns you. You can watch a repeat broadcast of this program on Sunday at 7 a.m. on TVC News. You can also see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching. I am Sijesu Adeoye. See you next time.